Conversation. My name is Kate Holterhoff, Senior Analyst at RedMonk. With me today, I am joined by Adam Seligman, VP of Developer Experience at AWS, and I would say a legend in the cloud space. He's got a history at Microsoft, Google, Heroku, and Salesforce, among other giants. And so, Adam, want to thank you for coming on the Moncast.
Hey, Kate. So great to be here. Thank you.
All right, let's kick off with some background. Can you tell us about how you ended up doing developer relations at so many heavy hitters in the cloud space and what ultimately led you to Amazon?
I kind of fell into it. I was in San Francisco in the early 2000s, and I took a job with Microsoft. And I was like, this would be a good way to get into the Bay Area tech scene. And I took a role in developer relations and kind of fell in love with the domain. And I found it fascinating, the intersections between developer tools and what their management wants out of them and what customers want out of the products that they build, the services they build, how all that comes together. I just found super fascinating. And I love it. It's got really techie stuff, but also it has to be understandable and approachable and how that comes together. And I just kind of fell into it, and I'm still learning. I don't think I'm great at it, but I haven't stopped learning, that's for sure. And it's been a fun adventure.
I would say that fun adventure is kind of an understatement here. I mean, you've been working at a lot of I would say some of the foundational DevRel companies. So how big were some of the teams as you were working on them?
Microsoft had a really large DevRel team when I was there, so more than 1,000 that I got to work as part of. Salesforce, a couple hundred people in DevRel. Google was hundreds, closer to 1,000, and Amazon is in the hundreds. Everybody looks at and counts DevRel a little differently, and some companies, working with DevRel is just working with developers, just part of their core. I think AWS is like that. All these great peer companies you mentioned have that to different extents. AWS is certainly a developer-centric company overall, for sure.
Right, the builder sort of framing.
Builder obsessed.
I like that, builder obsessed. So what is it about working with developers that you like so much? I mean, you mentioned that you're still learning. Is that sort of part of the appeal?
I love working with developers because developers love learning. That's the thing that just comes out more than anything else that makes developers tick. And every study I've seen over the decades now I've been doing this, is the thing that's great about developers is they love just trying new things. They're inspired by new ideas. They like solving the problems they have today. They like cranking on code and just getting things done and seeing their app or their solution get out to users and go into production at scale and everything. They also just love new ideas and solving problems in new ways. I think it's one of the reasons we see so many new technologies come in and why there's so much innovation in the space is because developers are willing to look at it. I don't know how you run a candy factory, but I bet candy factories today kind of run like candy factories used to. Software development is always changing, and that's one of the things I love about the audience and I love about the space.
I think that you've framed it in a way that makes a lot of sense to me in terms of the sort of tinkering spirit that is motivating a lot of what makes developers such a learning inspired community. Can you talk at all about how certifications have played into that historically? In the past, you and I have discussed your involvement with Salesforce's Trailblazer in particular. I thought that was a really fascinating part of your career. Why is it that certifications have been such an important part of the DevRel role, at least in the past decade?
I actually think certifications have been a little controversial, or maybe that's not the right way to put it. I think they're very differing opinions on certifications. There's one side that's a customer and a partner lens. It's we have to have a really awesome capacity to deliver results inside of our engineering organization. So we need certified people that can make sure we can make our own IT projects successful or make our clients successful, like our consulting company. And then if you're a aspiring developer or IT pro or architect or something, a certification is a great way to ladder up your skills. The other side is certifications sometimes can be a really high bar for people to meet. They're that's scary. I'm gonna have to study for a year and learn all this stuff that I don't know about, and what exactly is going to be in the test, and then the test costs money, and it's going to be proctored, and it's kind of intimidating. And then there's some practitioners I'm on the bleeding edge. There's nothing in a book. that could help me. Like if it's not like live on GitHub a week ago or less, it's not fresh enough for me to dive into. So like it's okay. There's room for all of that. For a lot of the world and for a lot of developers, building the foundational learning and then using certifications to show their progress is a really great career development thing and a really great way for leaders to be ensure their dev teams or their IT teams have the capabilities they need. But it's a big tent, and I think there's room for all of those perspectives. One thing I'm really passionate about, Kate, is just making sure people learn in different ways, and not everybody has the same access to resources or credit cards or a giant screen to do practice their development on, or they may not be comfortable like sharing their code on GitHub. Like that's okay. There's got to be room for everybody. And so providing a lot of different paths in and for the different ways people learn and make it fun and engaging and community oriented. We have to do those things too, in addition to those certification bars. AWS has something called Skill Builder. It's totally in that vein. Like most of it's free, learning paths and badges. So that approach has seen some more prevalence in the industry. But it's all about helping catch those other different kinds of learners in the way they learn and just catching them in and helping them grow their skills and maybe achieve certification or lots of certifications.
Right. And I think it's interesting to have that idea of upskilling as part of a larger conversation of DevRel as well, because I know that DevRel, of course, one of the challenges is that it's under this sort of marketing head, but then also it's sales enablement. And then, the engineering teams, so all of these parts of the org have a hand in DevRel, but the certifications have been important to teaching developers about the services that are available to them. And so when I've talked to the AWS Heroes and some of the folks who actually have all of the certifications, they have spoken to me about how, they're learning about so many of these Amazon services using these certifications. And so the sort of folks maybe succeed a little bit better with the certifications if they come in with some sort of baseline of knowledge too, whether that's from a boot camp that's going to level them up or, a CS degree, something more traditional.
I was talking to some of our heroes. So AWS is a really robust community hero program. We have a couple hundred heroes from around the world. We had them all in Seattle in the middle of July. They get to spend time with 25 different of our service team leaders. Our CEO, Matt Garman, spent time with them. They gave us a ton of great feedback and had really good peer interactions. And one of them pulled me aside and said, in my region of the world, people don't learn, quote, the American way or the Western way. We really like structured, like book knowledge, more that like certification prep material, where like it's a very specific guide of how to go through and learn. Like that's how our educational system works. That's how we like to learn. I see a little bit of the like, I don't know, I live in San Francisco. There's a little bit of like, just go to some meetups and talk to people and try the newest thing on GitHub. So it's a different way of learning. There's room for both of those things. And AWS, like many of our peers, is a really big global footprint and a really big global community of developers and customers. So we got to make sure it's a big tent for everybody.
Yeah, I would say you're succeeding with that. I mean, anytime you go on Hacker News to look at conversations about the certifications, Amazon's certification program comes up, and it's highly respected by the community, which is hard. It's hard to impress developers, especially about certification. So I think you're doing well there.
I think it's worth going into the other thing that you mentioned also, Kate, if I may, which is the reskilling and upskilling and growing as a developer. We're at a really exciting time right now because generative AI looks like it's really going to change how developers work in the future, doing the jobs they do today. It's going to change the kinds of things that they build. So software development is just changing in really interesting ways right now. The ways developers build is changing, the way they do the jobs. Just the jobs they do today are going to really change as generative AI tools help them do those jobs and tackle problems faster. They're going to build new things they weren't building before, different kinds of things. They're building generative AI things. They're using generative AI to help their customers solve problems and make their user experience different and all this cool stuff. And then it's even changing who can be a developer, because like the approach angle to get into development with generative AI assistants, with new tools, we've released like Q apps and App Studio and Q Developer that are just changing even like what it means to enter and become a developer and skill up. So in this time of incredible change, our approach is to really be a trusted guide through that disruption, have great services, deliver the same reliability, performance, scalability, and operational history that AWS has, and that broad breadth of services. And then with tools like QDeveloper, make it all easier to use and engage and like tackle new problems fearlessly. So I think it's kind of the most exciting time I've seen in software development in at least a decade, maybe 2 decades. It's a really exciting moment we're in. It's going to have this big human impact in how developers work and the kind of things they build and even who can be a developer.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. Although there is an undercurrent of anxiety among the folks that I speak with as well. Of course, developers specifically are worried about losing their jobs. Folks that are coming out of the boot camp industry, junior developers, folks that are more at this entry level, they're worried about what that's going to look like. What do you tell folks who have that concern about whether or not the software industry is going to have a job for them in the future?
It's funny that if you look at almost like any big technological innovation, it's like, oh, well, it'll take away jobs. It actually turns out to the opposite. It like creates opportunity because people can do more. I have had junior engineers on my team. So I had L4 and L5 SDEs and interns on my team the last couple of years. And so we set them up with QDev and other generative AI tools. We built an internal LM playground that we use to get our hands dirty. It basically is a kind of equivalent to what you can use in Bedrock Studio now for our customers. And what I saw was that early career developers could tackle hard problems fearlessly. They could get help with their writing. They could get like automatic reviews of their design docs. They could look at past COEs or other like learnings of how we operate systems and things, and then extract those learnings and apply them to the project they're working on, help them write tests. So actually what we've seen in practice is junior engineers fearlessly tackling hard problems. So I'm an absolute optimist on this. I personally am inspired when I can fire up VS Code and sit there in QDev and get help on things that I want to tackle. I didn't really understand how React props work. I said, QDev, teach me React props, and it started just like taking me through. I used Claude from Anthropic for some things, some other things that I wanted to learn. So it's just a really cool moment that we're in, where someone early in their career can just tackle hard problems fearlessly and build real things that matter faster than ever.
All right, at this point, I gotta mention that in tech circles, Adam is well known for not only his kindness but also his enthusiasm. And it seems to me that what's been most exciting for you right now is AI, as you have articulated here. So I actually really enjoyed our exchange on Twitter or X recently, where we were talking about where AI is going to sit in the software development lifecycle. And so, at a high level, but sort of beyond the hype, why is it that AI is so exciting for you? I love this conversation about how it's helping you to learn some the syntax for some new technologies here. But I mean, it seems like it goes beyond that, just from following you on social media.
Yeah, generative AI feels like a thing to me that lifts you up in the places where you need support and want to get better and learn and grow. Everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses and their areas of focus and stuff. So to have this general purpose tools like QDev, Anthropic, Claude, all these other tools that are amazing tools that are out there, they can make you stronger in areas and tackle things you wouldn't otherwise tackle. So I just find it immensely rewarding. We used to say, like as an industry, I feel like we projected on the community, you have to be this tall to ride the rides. You have to have this kind of expertise. You have to have done this before, and don't do this unless you know how to have this kind of operational excellence. And like now, we've got these tools that can help you, like QDev and others can like help you with all these different areas. So like now everybody can ride the rides. Everybody can participate in the cloud and mobile apps and all this like technological innovation. So I kind of find that inspiring. I think we're opening software development, we're opening like cloud and advanced technology to many more humans. And I feel like, that does good in the world. That's an incredible opportunity. So it's just incredibly satisfying for me to watch these new builders come in and tackle hard problems and build new things, grow their careers. I've been doing this long enough. I've seen people start from interns and now are like VP level people at companies. And just fascinating and satisfying and delightful.
I like that framing of it in this democratic sense, that this sort of optimism comes from a leveling that we couldn't access before, that it's going to change things for the better because it's allowing us to lay a longer table, right? That more people are going to be able to, I guess I'm interested in what the long-term, what consequences of this would be. Like, is it going to be that our standard of living is going to go up? Is it going to be that more folks are able to engage online by building applications that they weren't able to in the past? Is it going to be, I guess maybe more in like the workforce or more like at home in the quality of life sense?
I just came out of a meeting. The meeting is the team that's going to run a program. We've done some pilot. It worked pretty well. So these program managers are now going to run a program. So they used to do like a lot of different things in a lot of different places, and it wasn't super tracked. An amazing job, but like it ended up on like, spreadsheets and QUIP documents and stuff like that instead of like really structured. We call it mechanized. And so now they're going to mechanize it. We're going to do 50 of these a year and 100 of these a year and one of these every week. And like it adds that we're going to track these thousands of data points. And then they said, and I'm going to use AWS App Studio to do it. I'm like, okay, well, we have a lot of programmers here. Like somebody could build you an app to track this. No. App Studio with Gen AI, and the team's helping me a little bit. And now I can build an app. So like I'm kind of flabbergasted. Like we released this new product in preview. I'm really proud to have worked on this. There are some of the technology in the industry. This product, AWS App Studio, is giving a program manager who's not a technical, very technical person, but not a programmer, to build a production-grade AWS app with AI helping them, and they won't have to babysit the code because AWS App Studio manages it all for them, and they can run their business. So like I'm seeing like a direct opportunity for the career growth of somebody on my team because we introduced this technology that makes building applications accessible to many more humans. It's just, I can't tell you how happy I was to come out of that meeting, and it's inspiring for me.
There is something so liberating about being able to write your own code and create your own apps. And so allowing more folks to have that ability without having to make time for an engineer to do it for you, and this back and forth that entails. When I was a practitioner, when I was on an interactive team, I remember the exchanges that we would have. And this was before COVID. So we were all in the same room, and we would still have to wheel our chair over to the UX team and say, well, explain to me this part of the wireframe. I'm not quite understanding this. And then, go over to the designers and say, is this button supposed to be a drop down? Like, how does this actually work? And of course, I'm thinking of my experience as a front end engineer, but I think this goes across the org, where if you're able to break down these silos and allow folks to create on their own, there's something so wonderful about that.
Kate, I'd push it a different direction. I love the story. I'd challenge you to take it a different direction. I love those conversations. What I don't like is in the hour where somebody goes off to turn the wireframe into a drop-down or decide it should be a button, a set of buttons or something, or a pick list or something. What I would love is if the computer could do all that hard work and the two humans, their different expertise, could debate, well, what's going to be the most efficient and drive the best user interaction, and look at the options right then, and let agentic systems go off and do you go implement 3 of these different options. Like, I want to just say, like, the future's here. It's not evenly distributed yet, but I want to go, I'll give you an example. We're not the only tool, but go into QDev and say /dev, and you tell the feature it wants, implement this as a dropdown. And then go in another branch, say QDev, implement this as a pick list. And it goes off, and you could instantly, within a minute or two, look at both. And then the two humans could talk and make a decision. So I think there's a way where we use this, like things like agentic development, to take some of that legwork out of the way and let the human spark of genius and collaboration actually come more to the front. And so you're still pushing your chair around, but you're pushing your chair around to have great decisions, not pushing a chair around, which is effectively pushing bits around.
I love the vision. It's hard for me to imagine in practice, but I want to get there too.
But Kate, it's here now, and I feel like our jobs as leaders, and you as a leader in the industry, is help us figure out what it's going to change and when, which parts will change when, and how that joy, that collaborative joy, that creative joy we can bring to the front faster. And yeah, our /dev agent feature doesn't do everything perfectly yet. Like, we're in Swebench, we do really well on the leaderboard, but everybody is at like 20%, not at 95%. So there's more work to go, but it's getting better every week, right? Agentic development with QDev and other tools is getting better every week. So it's coming really fast, Kate. And so there's this incredible opportunity for all of us as leaders to like listen and learn and think through how the art and the craft of software development is going to change for these teams and for these humans.
All right. I look forward to seeing this future that you've mapped out here. And I think we're returning to the software development lifecycle conversation that we had online. So, it's your vision of the future that we are going to be using AI at every level of that lifecycle. And, so talking about it in terms of like the wireframe level. So like right from the beginning, right from the conversation that you have with the client of what it is that app should look like, to the QA step at the end, right before you pass off. So explain to me how you envision that, and then maybe how AWS is going to enable that to happen.
There's a lot of data that says developers spend maybe 20% of their time actually writing code. And they spend other time like debugging things and writing and reading docs and in meetings and collaborating and lots of other things, deploying and operating, lots of other things that aren't actually just writing the core application business logic. So our approach to AWS is to look at that whole life cycle of an app, from design, from specifications to business, even business requirements, architectural approach, what is the service configuration IC you'll need to recognize that architectural approach, pipeline automation, writing tests, writing code, debugging things, debugging tests, debugging operational problems, going through operational logs, providing a really great facility to ask questions of your operating infrastructure to better understand existing code that you inherit from someone else. Explain this code to me is one of our most popular features in QDev. And VS Code, you just right click, a little context menu, because I would say, explain this to me. It's one of the most popular features. It's kind of funny. It's not writing code, just explaining code. It's like a killer feature. So our vision is that this transformation of software development won't just happen on the coding part. We've seen great take up of inline coding. We weren't first with that. We've got a great product now. But actually our vision is the whole life cycle is going to change. Parts of it that we don't do at AWS, like UX design and stuff, we don't do right now. But there's some great tools out there that are innovating in that space. So I think we're going to see a lot of innovation across the industry. But our mental model for sure is be that expert to help you with help our customers and help developers with that entire software development lifecycle.
And can we tie this back to our conversation about DevRel? Are you seeing a changing how DevRel is going to continue as a domain? I mean, I'm thinking through some of the troubles that the DevRel label has had lately. So the most recent thing I read on this was Sean Wang's DevRel's death as a zero interest rate phenomena. So the role of developer experience. It is under siege right now. I don't know if I would say that it's dead, but I think it's going through an existential crisis with a lot of teams losing the staff that they've had in the past. So is AI at all to blame in this, or how is AI maybe supporting DevRel, and what does the future hold for these two possibly warring ideas?
The state of the DevRel union is strong. There are stalwarts that carry along and engage their thriving, healthy, growing developer communities. There are emerging companies and trends and dislocations and disruptions. It was really awesome to have Sean do a UX AI event, generative AI UX event in our AWS startup loft in San Francisco, I don't know, a month ago. The startup loft has seen ups and downs as the cycle changed. So the state of our DevRel union is strong. And I definitely think every DevRel team has to find its way, and the context is in of its product and its audience and its customers and everything. We take the long view at AWS. We're willing to be misunderstood, and we just really firmly believe that builders are at the center of the world of building and using and innovating on AWS. And if we're just relentless and obsessed over listening to them and taking their feedback and engaging with our community and supporting them with all the cool stuff they want to go build, that we'll see our happy customers and a growing business and really great innovation. And we just see the AI as an accelerant. I mean, it keeps coming back to that. AI seems to be an accelerant for this. It's welcoming more people in. It's letting our current users change the way they work and accelerate the way they work. It's letting them tackle new things fearlessly. And it's even opening a door so we can get new builders in. I would I come back to the state that DevRel union is strong.
So reports of DevRel's death have been greatly exaggerated.
I find it a little funny. People are like, well, let me give you the entire history of DevRel. We're going to start 4 years ago back in time. And I'm like, well, actually, the beginning of time was, the Big Bang happened a little before 3 or 4 years ago. So maybe I'm just old and jaded. I learned everything on the shoulders of giants, and I'm inspired by the people and early career people I work with now. And it's kind of never ending. The delight and joy and innovation and problem solving and fun that developer communities have just doesn't go away. In San Francisco, where I'm based in San Francisco, we have this AWS Generative AI loft now. We had more than 500 people in last week at 4 events. I mean, just 4 nights of the week there were events. We could have done more. I think everybody was tired, or we could have done more. A Women in Tech event, an LLM event, a startup generative AI event, boom, 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 boom. So different communities doing cool things. Just it's a little tiring, but it's incredibly exciting.
All right. So you have mentioned a lot of the products that AWS can boast right now that relate to AI organically in this conversation. But I'm curious, can we talk about what is Amazon's strategy around AI, and maybe a roadmap? What should we be looking for in the next, year, 5 years?
Yeah. We're betting really big on generative AI. We look at it sort of having 3 layers to a stack. That foundational layer of silicon and compute and capacity for training and inference at scale. And we have a really large compute footprint. Customers use it all over the world. Silicon innovation like Trainium and Inferentia, really large amount of compute infrastructure, partnership with companies like NVIDIA. So many of the top generative AI powerhouses of the world, I would say most of the startups are doing all that core training and inference and building those models and innovating on our infrastructure at that first layer of the stack. The second layer of the stack is our AI services, generative AI services, and the Bedrock and the SageMaker family. So SageMaker is for experts anybody wants to build and train and fine tune their own models. And Bedrock is our managed foundation models as a service, and then all the ancillary agents and guardrails and tooling around it. And it's just really simple. Lots of companies are going to take their data and build custom models. And they probably want to start with an existing model and then tune it for their usage. We released Meta's Llama 3, 405, 70, and 17, hopefully I got that right, billion parameter models last week, I believe, on SageMaker and Bedrock, and you can fine tune it. So this is a frontier grade 405 billion model that you can fine tune on your own data and build really innovative custom solutions. And then Bedrock will manage all this as a service. So fully manage the service. You can drop in, you can build agents, you can connect to your enterprise data sources with Bedrock, basically a RAG technique, guardrails for toxicity and bias, like just away you go. And it's securely connected to your AWS data. So you're not like going over the internet and pushing your data to API of some model provider that's like as a service. I think a lot of people are uncomfortable with that, especially in a regulated industry. You don't want to push your data, off of your AWS estate. So Bedrock is just a really great option in that middle stack for a foundation model service. And then our top stack is at that application layer. And this is like an area with like a lot of innovation, where we're providing sort of more finished applications to provide value to different kind of users. So we talked about Q Developer for software developers as their expert software developer assistant through all parts of the lifecycle. Other innovations that I mentioned, AWS App Studio, which lets kind of any technical person, like that program manager I mentioned on my team, build data-driven internal business applications. Serverless applications work against your AWS data. We own we take care of all the code. We operate the system for you, but they're real high-scale, governed, managed AWS serverless applications. And then all the way out to new applications like Q for business. So Q for business is like an expert for business users inside their company. So for example, our salespeople can ask questions about customer contacts, and it will securely, with only the right context they're supposed to have insight into, provide that detail just by asking questions. And it has a capability called Q Apps, which is really cool, where you can actually just build an application. So you might be like, I was talking to a sales rep the other day, and they're like, okay, I want to understand for this customer, what conversations we have with them, what projects are they working on, are there any issues we need to be aware of, and then when are they next coming in? And now I want to write that up in a narrative form so I have a prep doc before we do an EBC with the customer. Well, Q Apps will say, oh, I saw you do these 4 prompts in a row. I think that's an app. I'd like to make an app for you where just these inputs and outputs, and you can share that app with your entire organization. So it's this really exciting new space in this app layer with all this innovation. Our strategy is to offer those 3 layers: the foundational, infrastructure and compute for training and inference, the managed models as a service and model building tools with Bedrock and SageMaker, and then these new emerging applications for developers and business users and technical professionals. We're seeing growth in all of those areas. It's a super exciting time to be here. It's really important as a user or customer, you kind of get the layer that matches your needs. You probably don't want to get lost in Silicon Land if that's not for you, if you just want business applications. Similarly, we have customers that want access to the best infrastructure in the world, and they can get that with our AWS Silicon and infrastructure services. So super exciting space, and that's our 3 layers of our generative AI approach.
We are about out of time, but before we go, how can folks hear more from you? What are your preferred social channels? Are you planning on speaking at all in 2024? Talk to me about how folks can follow you and our conversation.
I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. I don't love calling it X. I'm Adam SE on Twitter, and we try to have a really open and frank dialogue there. I'll probably be hosting a leadership session at reInvent for developers. Hopefully everybody's going to come to reInvent. We got a lot of big announcements coming. I'm super, you think it's been going fast. Wait to see what we have coming at reInvent. We're building our first-party community. We have Repost and community.aws, and we're sourcing more and more content from our community on those channels. Sometimes it ends up on Instagram and YouTube and stuff. So again, we try to take a really community-centric approach, and I hope all of you that use AWS or are interested in AWS will also come meet us in those communities.
I have really enjoyed this conversation, Adam. I am so grateful to you for coming on here. Again, my name is Kate Holterhoff, Senior Analyst at RedMonk. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, subscribe, and review the Monkcast on your podcast platform of choice. If you are watching us on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and engage with us in the comments.
Don't miss out. They're the best.